The Budget Committee and Councillor Ainslie, who's the chair of the Government Management Services Committee, are here today together with a number of our hard-working city staff, led in this case by Josie Scioli, who's been previously mentioned by Gary as having had a real leadership role in what we're here to talk about today, which is really about the modernization of the city government. And it's about carrying on where we left off yesterday, which is saying that we simply have to look at different ways to do things, both because it's 2016 and it's time after years when we've kind of kept on doing things the same old way in the same old places and with the same kinds of approaches to the spending of money, but also because of the pressures of the city's finances and the fact that modernization gives us an opportunity. Modernization is an opportunity to do things better for people and at the same time to save money. And the reason why we're here, and I went over and completed most of the task of paying for that traffic ticket online, that's nothing new, the fact that you can do it. But the fact is that right behind that kiosk where you can pay your traffic tickets online is the room where you come to do it in person. And I'm going to talk about the relative cost between having people serve citizens in person there and what that costs us per transaction relative to having people do it online when they can do it in a convenient way to themselves and do it online, and it's a much better and faster and cheaper way to do things. When we improve our services and modernize the city and give our city staff the right tools to do the job, then they in turn provide better service and save money for the people of Toronto. And as Councillor Crawford mentioned, this year we asked all city divisions and agencies for 2.6% in efficiencies, so they would be required to think differently about how we deliver services to the public. And I experienced a lot of criticism, as did Councillor Crawford, for asking people to come forward with those proposals. And I made clear all the way through they were proposals because we wanted to see what people could produce if they were given a target, a direction to take a look at their budgets and identify those kinds of efficiencies. Any big organization needs clear mandates of this kind in order to cause them to think differently and to push itself to change. So here are just a few examples of what that process produced, and there are many, many more I could offer you. The Toronto Public Library will save more than $1 million over the next 2 years by letting people pay their fines at self-checkout stations, reducing the need for front counter staff and saving both time and money. $1 million. Toronto Public Health will save $257,000 next year by giving their frontline workers mobile technology to enter their investigative reports. This will eliminate time-consuming paperwork, reduce administration positions, and get rid of the need to enter this data manually. I would argue that will make the lives of all of those people involved happier as well, their work lives happier, because they're able to use this technology to enter their reports. The Toronto Police Service will save $600,000 this year just from converting their landline phone system to VoIP, a voice over internet protocol. And the TTC will save $300,000 by mandating what many others have already done, namely to say that for staff in the field, they have a choice of having a landline telephone or a mobile telephone paid for by the TTC, but not both. These are simple, common sense changes that save our city money, while at the same time, I would argue, improving service to the public. In total, the 2.6% mandate produced tens of millions of dollars of savings that will not affect service to people, but will lead, I would argue, to better service and to the saving of this money. In the case of the Toronto Police Service, the $600,000 saving came, and many more on top of it, came as a result of the work of the Transformational Task Force, which was made up equally of people from the police service itself and outside citizens. So you had a team of people who were from the outside to bring some new ideas, and people who were in the management echelons of the police service who were there, who knew the business very well and could offer their expertise as well. And together, this group pushed ahead with major change initiatives that ensure that Toronto has a great police service with modern tools and modern ways of doing things. And importantly, to the taxpayers of the City of Toronto, they delivered the first police budget in 11 years that was lower than the year before. This is the kind of modernization we all want to see. Better services for less money, and it can be done. And I think the Police Task Force is a model and a very productive way in which we can produce those savings and, just as importantly, change the way of thinking in these agencies and others on a broader basis. So today, I'm here to announce the success of those initiatives and additional elements of our city's plan to improve service to the public, and specifically 4 new points that relate to our plan to modernize City Hall. And they include the hiring of a Chief Transformation Officer, significant and much speedier implementation of online and digital city services, which are cheaper and less expensive and more satisfying to provide, changes to how we use our city office space so we get more for less, and action in the area of our city's real estate holdings. And you will see that each of these 4 points, which will be overseen by Councillor Paul Ainsley and his group and by our city staff, and indeed form a very important part of our budget deliberations today and going forward, you will see they also make a big difference to the satisfaction of our employees and of the citizens, as we see from what we've learned so far. In the new year, the City Manager, Peter Wallace, will hire a new Chief Transformation Officer who will be given a clear mandate to expedite changes in the way we deliver services to residents and how we operate internally. It will be a mandate that will feature very specific targets and very specific timelines so that we can get on with doing this. As I go to other cities, they have needed a focal point, somebody like this Chief Transformation Officer, to drive this change. And when I visited city after city after city in the United States and elsewhere, it has taken somebody that has a mandate to bring about this change and bring about that change as rapidly as possible to actually help in getting it done. And so it would be my intention, and I know Mr. Wallace's as well, to have this person, once appointed, to lead in transforming the city government and the way people feel about the Toronto Public Service, both inside and outside the City Hall. This person will make sure that we implement high-impact transformation initiatives that will serve the public and empower our employees. Over the next 5 years, we will accelerate the process that is already underway to offer more city services online through our website and mobile technology. It is a matter of common sense, once again, that if we want to be taken seriously as a tech city, which is part of the message I'm out there selling when we're out trying to get investment into Toronto, that we have to push ourselves out of our old 20th century ways. In fact, I might even suggest some of them went back as far as the 19th century. People expect to be able to pay their bills and receive permits through the internet, just like they can access services and make transactions online in other parts of their lives. In fact, most other parts of their lives. Right now, it's just not the case. If you have a restaurant in Etobicoke, you have to go to a counter at the East York Civic Centre to get your restaurant license, but then you have to go to another place in your own area of town, in the case of the example I gave, Etobicoke, to get your patio license. That doesn't make sense. It's inconvenient for the people that have to do it, and it's expensive for us to offer those kinds of services all over the place in different places. It makes no sense to the people who are accessing those services, and it makes no sense to the city's bottom line. Serving people at a counter, like the one back here, costs us on average $23 per transaction. Serving people on the phone costs us on average $16 per transaction. Web transactions done online cost us $2 per transaction. And so by migrating more services online where people expect to find them and where they want them, and by introducing a new improved city website in 2017, the city expects to save at least $8 million every single year. $8 million a year through the introduction of this new website and having this push with timetables to migrate services online. In 5 years, we will have reduced our physical counter space from 41 separate counters offering different services to 5 convenient full-service hubs at civic centres or libraries across the city. And the first 2 of these hubs will be introduced and in service next year. These changes will be made more convenient for the public, and they will save money, millions of dollars every year. More convenience for the public, better service for less money. Just now, we also toured the second floor of this building, which was used as a pilot project for our office modernization program, another pillar of the 4 new modernization opportunities that we're announcing today. For years, our city's office space has fallen behind the standard of other employers, and I can attest to that, having been in buildings in this city that are of modern 21st century employers and other cities, including the Silicon Valley and overseas. Little thought was given as to how we use our space, the impact that it has on our employees, their productivity, their morale, and our costs. But by making simple changes to these work environments, embracing office concepts that are standard practice in almost any other workplace, the City of Toronto can save up to $7 million each and every year. That's another $7 million beyond the millions that I mentioned earlier. Over the last year, Josie has led in the transformation of 2 floors in this building, Metro Hall. By doing so, she has increased the capacity of the floors that have been done by 25%, meaning 25% more people comfortably housed in the same space. Put another way, these pilot floors have not only modernized and improved the quality of space provided to our employees, but they have also reduced the quantity of space per employee from approximately 170 square feet per employee to about 130 square feet per employee. That is a big productivity improvement in terms of the use of space, and that's where the $7 million in annual savings comes from. We have already saved city taxpayers $1 million a year by collapsing 2 leases and moving those staff into this city-owned space because we're able to make more productive use of this space thanks to those changes. The city's office modernization program has identified 15 other city leases that expire between 2015 and 2020, which we will likely collapse, saving additional millions of dollars just by rethinking where we get space and how we use better our own space. This change has great impact on our bottom line, but it's also really important to note the benefit for our employees. As a result of the pilot projects conducted so far in this building, Josie has seen a 43% increase in employee satisfaction and a 20% increase in employee engagement. The fact that there are simple things like daylight that is now something that people have in their own workspace, that it's open and collaborative and so on, has led to a dramatic increase in employee satisfaction. The final pillar in our modernization plan is our citywide real estate review. The city manager, at the direction of City Council, retained Deloitte to look at the city's current real estate holdings and to see if they made sense. The report concluded that we can deliver between $30 and $60 million in savings by using our assets more efficiently, relocating some government jobs to less expensive space elsewhere in the city, in other areas of the city. They don't have to be downtown, and making better, more strategic use of publicly owned real estate. I intend to see this part of the agenda, resulting in those tens of millions of dollars of additional savings, moved forward through Council and our agencies in this coming year. I have done this before in business. I know how to do this. I know it takes great determination to do it, but I am absolute in my determination to see that we provide better service to people for less money, and that we achieve these savings and can report to the people that these counters are being eliminated, that online services are there for people to use, that office space has been modernized, and that these savings have been achieved. I think this plan will make us more efficient, it will improve service to the public, and it will save millions of dollars every single year. And it also means that our city staff, who do such a good job for the people of Toronto, will be able to focus more on the work that they have to do, the important work they have to do for the people. And so we wanted to update you on these important steps forward, and happy to take your questions on this or anything else that you have on your mind today.
This is intended to soften the blow of what's to come later this week.
I think if you look at the kinds of examples that I've given, I can tell you with some degree of certainty, and Councillor Crawford knows it better, the decisions haven't been taken yet, but I can tell you that the kinds of efficiencies we're going to achieve are, in the operation of the city on a day-to-day basis, are things that are just common sense, and very few of them have any impact that people would notice. They're just things that should be done. With respect to what I believe to be a separate question, which is how we pay for the longer-term infrastructure projects that we have to build in order to relieve traffic, in particular, to build more transit, to get people around and connect them to jobs. I've said all along that we have to be forthright and honest about that and have a plan. And I'll be outlining some of the details of that plan later this week together with my colleagues, and we're then going to push it forward and get City Council to approve it, because we've got to get on with relieving the traffic, building transit, addressing housing, and a host of other things that have been postponed for far too long. These things, if you listen to the list that I mentioned today, the answer is no. Over time, you may see, for example, that if you have fewer people employed at counters, because more people are doing services online, that you may have fewer people employed at counters. But I would suggest to you, given the natural attrition of the city, that there's an opportunity to simply say, well, now that we're moving to a new era that people expect where they can perform services online, that we won't replace those people who work behind the counter, or that they'll be deployed somewhere else. But the bottom line is, it will result in some changes in the way people work. It might, over time, reduce some staffing, because that's where some of the savings come from. But it's the 21st century. People expect to see their services delivered online, not because they're concerned about the city's budget, they are, but because they expect to have the convenience of being able to go online at a kiosk or at their own home and do these things. And so I think we have a responsibility to do what the rest of the world is doing and modernize this government and, yes, save money at the same time.
Mayor Tory, how much will it cost to hire a chief transformation officer, and how much will the search for that person cost?
I don't know how much the search will cost. I know Mr. Wallace has some ideas in mind as to the kind of person that he wants to bring in to do that, and so it may be the search costs will be very little. You know, I would expect what you're going to find is if this person has the importance in terms of the job they have to do that I think that the person does, it will be paid a senior management salary within the City of Toronto. But